So, and Holy Hand Grenade says, yes, get to the Northman. I'm here. Let's get to the Northman. Cool. This is not going to be a full review, and I'll tell you why. I cannot fully do a review of this film because I cannot get into spoiler territory. We will not be getting into spoiler territory for The Northman. But if you have not seen the trailer for this incredible film by Robert Eggers, do yourself a favor right now. I have watched that trailer 50 times. It has just blown me away in terms of like taking me back to a time with Conan, directed by John Milius, that amazing Basil Polidoris score. Incredible. But Robert Eggers, let's talk about the director first before we get into it. Previous films, The Lighthouse, which was weird, right? It's about isolation and madness and drunken dreams and the sort of bizarreness that solitary being. You're stuck in a lighthouse with one other dude, and there are a lot of fart jokes in it. I will say there is one fart in The Northman, one audible fart, and it's perfectly part of the story. 100%. Not played for laughs, perfectly part of the story. His other film, which I liked better, the previous one to that, which had what's her name? Anya. Anya
Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy was in this movie called The Witch. That's kind of like her breakout film. Strongly recommend that you see The Witch. It's actually spelled the VV itch, like the Vavitch. A friend of mine, Bobby Schwartz, calls it the Vavitch. It's not the Vavitch, it's The Witch. The Northman is very similar to The Witch in this sense. And I'm not going to get into spoilers. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk spoiler stuff after it opens. But and this is a good thing, okay? This is a very good thing. Everything you see in that trailer for The Northman happens in the first third of the movie. Most of what you've seen in the trailer. So all those events, that's the first third of the movie. So what's really cool is I'm kind of in the middle of the movie going, I have no idea where this movie's going now. The same thing happened to me when I saw The Dark Knight. If you remember Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, there was many trailers that came out for that movie. What was fascinating was, and I know Nolan is like very much he's obsessed with like the marketing, right? Like, when you get to a certain point in The Dark Knight, you're like, I have no idea where this film is going to go because none of this was in the trailer, because trailers tend to ruin things these days. Trailers will, and Alan, hopefully you're paying attention to the chat and starring some of the best comments.
Yeah.
Because I'll get to those starred comments and questions as we get through this. But I love that. So many trailers these days ruin the movie. They'll take you up through the third act, and then we kind of already know where it's going to go. And The Northman does a great job of like, well, you've seen the first third. It's in the trailer. You have no idea where it's going now. Now, it does sort of follow your something of a hero's journey, right? Like, the closest thing you might be able to compare it to is something like Conan. The first Conan. Second Conan movie was not great. First Conan movie is, that's a film for adults. It's R-rated. It's bloody and gory. But what happens is there's a turn. So you know what happens, right? It's, his father is killed, mother is taken captive by the brother. The young boy escapes, the Northman escapes and ends up becoming a raiding barbarian. And he has this, he's obsessed. He wants his revenge. He wants to kill Fjordur. That's in his head. And that is that he is single-minded in this obsession, and things don't go as planned. So in the second half of the movie, and I do not want to get into spoilers, it becomes a horror film. It is absolutely a horror film because this plan, the Northman is so obsessed with executing this plan that he's on this mission. He has to work in stealth. So it doesn't necessarily go the way that you think. And by working in stealth to execute this plan, this goes down a very dark road. So there's two ways that the movie's dark. One, the movie is nearly overcast the entire film. Not a lot of sun in this movie, right? So it's like physically dark. Okay, cinematography, great using that darkness. And there's a healthy amount of nude sword play. Let me just say that. Nude, like fully naked with swords and shields, sword play is happening. But the second half of the movie becomes like this like creepy thriller horror film that is bloody gory. And I would describe the type of horror, it's like Game of Thrones. You know, someone can't just like get killed in Game of Thrones, right? They get killed, whatever. No, they get killed in the most gory, gruesome, ironic way that is, you know, the psychological aspect, the psychological horror is even worse than the wounds being inflicted or the limbs being chopped off. Does that make any sense? So I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but I'll just say that like there's not any sort of death that you could describe as like a normal, like, oh, you stab someone and they're dead. Well, there's some of those in there, but most of the violence is like, it's bloody gory. It's horrific. Alexander Skarsgård, like that. I mean, he's just, his physique alone is just so imposing. And there's some also healthy doses of humor. And you'll see that in Robert Eggers' film, probably more prominently in The Lighthouse, in the Witch that's like that, or The Witch. But there's like, the humor is organic. It's not like quippy one-liners, like a terrible, you know, like that's become so, you know, just part of a Marvel movie. There's always these quippy lines, which what I don't like about that is it lowers the level of like seriousness of what's happening. You know, I really think if the world were ending, we wouldn't be making quippy jokes. We'd be focused on, you know, the task at hand. So, but there's some really good uses of humor in it. I'm so reluctant to talk further about the film because I want you to be surprised. I was fortunate enough to be invited to an early screening. That also doesn't mean I'm cool or whatnot. And first of all, when it comes to the press and me doing press, Film Thread is kind of labeled as general press, meaning we are not important. And I don't care. Like, my preference is always to see a movie in a theater with paying customers, because I feel like the reaction is more authentic. So I'm going to stop right there talking about the film. I'll answer some questions. Star Wars Terrier says, no spoilers. And Turo says, Chris noticed my quippy comments. Look, quippy comments in the chat is great. Go ahead.
I will tell you, you had the chat at Naked Sword Fight.
Yeah, well, there is a sword fight with two people that are naked.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
naked.
I appreciate you clarifying that you meant swords.
No, well, there's swords and swords. I mean, they're both types of swords. They're both types of swords. It's always.
So you're saying we get both then? We get both fights.
And Chet's mom, who has known me for a long time, not going to reveal Chet's mom for identity. I'm just not going to. She says it's always cooler to not be cool. Yeah, I'm kind of when I see a movie, I'm like the last guy to show up at the gangbang. That's a terrible description, but that's me. Like, and most of the time I get invited by friends who got invited to a screening. So I'm the plus one, right? Like, I'm the plus one getting into a screening, or sometimes they do these things called tastemaker screenings. And what they'll do is the American Cinematheque will say free tickets to this movie. It's whoever registers first. And I got tickets to see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, right? Isn't that
yes,
unbearable?
That's the title.
Unbearable. I'm seeing that next Wednesday. So we're going to do a late night stream, Hollywood on the Rocks, next Wednesday. It'll probably start at 10 p.m. or later next week, because you're going to see the movie too, right, Alan?
Yeah, I don't have my I mean, I'm going to a screening. You're
going to a screening. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it Wednesday night and directly after, and it's on the West Side. So I'm going to come back. Hopefully we'll start the stream about 10 p.m. Pacific time next Wednesday. And we're going to talk about Nick Cage's new movie and a couple of other things. So yeah. And okay. So Criggy says, so is The Northman a must see or just okay or what? It's one of my favorite movies this year. Okay. So, but I can't talk about the second half of the movie because I feel it's fair to talk about anything that's in the trailer. there's almost nothing from the second half of the movie in the trailer. I would almost say the last 2/3 of the movie, because it takes this, you think the trailer's almost like it's like a misdirect, like the movie's going this way and then it goes a different way and you're like, oh, movie. And I love when movies do that. And I'm so sick of movies that are, just like go the way you think they're going to go. And you're like, okay, well, you fulfilled what you said you do. And so there we are. Yay. But what can you say?
So you're recommending the Northman and
strong
the Hedgehog 2. All right.
Yeah. But see, these are different movies. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 should be judged based on, is it a good video game movie? Different scale than the Northman, which sets this up to be a Norse tale, like like barbarians and Vikings are in it. Like, is it good in that realm? How does it hold up to the original Conan, which I think still holds up? By the way, got it in 4K. So the digital 4K.